Assalamu alaikum. I have a question for you. Do you sometimes find yourself not knowing the basic things about the deen? I mean, sometimes someone might ask you a question and you're kind of stumped for an answer. Don't you wish that you had the answers to some of the basic things that you have to do as a Muslim day to day? If so, then perhaps you may be interested in studying your deen. We have an Islamic studies program, and if you'd like to join it, you can find more information on it by clicking the link below and joining our Telegram group. And if you like it, you can register for the first year. And hopefully we see you on the other side. Assalamu alaikum. Peace.
I told you fiqh is a subject where you carry out the actions that Allah wants you to come with. How to pray, how to give zakat, how to pray salat, tahara, wudu, ghusl, what a woman does on her menses, marriage, rights of the spouse, rights of the children, rights of the parents, rights of the neighbor, food, what do you eat, what do you not eat, when is it halal, when is it haram. All these conversations that we have, we fight over. Do you go down with your knees first? Do you go down with your hands first? What do you do? Ghusl. Do you have to do wudu in ghusl? Which ghusl do you have to do wudu in? Is it Jum'ah ghusl? Is it obligatory? Is it not obligatory? What does a woman do with her menses? Does she have to make up a prayer if her menses came on at a time when the prayer had kicked in and she hadn't prayed it, but the menses started before the prayer? Does she have to pray? What does she do if there's 1 minute left before and her menses stop? She doesn't know. Her whole life she's been living, and she goes through this every day, every month, like clockwork. How many prayers maybe are on her neck? How many fasts are on her neck? Her father, why he didn't teach her? Her mother, she didn't know herself. She got married, her husband doesn't know. He has to go and ask another man about these things. So it's necessary that we learn these things, my brothers and my sisters, because without it, how will you know halal? How will you know haram? You will fall into things that are haram without knowing. How will you know what's obligatory upon you individually? There are things that are fardul ayn. There are things that are fard kifaya. Things that are obligatory upon every individual. Things that are obligatory on a community. Salatul janazah is obligatory on everyone. If someone dies, does everyone have to come and pray Salatul janazah? No. No, not everyone has to pray. But if there is someone that doesn't pray on that person, if the people who are right for that job, who meet the conditions of people who need to pray Salatul Janazah, if they don't pray Salatul Janazah on the person, everyone in that land is sinning. Everyone in that community is sinning. Everyone in that community is sinning. Everyone in that community is sinning. Because that's Fardul Kifaya, not Fardul Ain. So some of you might be able to be a bit relaxed. Okay, this is not Fardul Ain, it's Fardul Kifaya. Not everyone has to do it. Some have to do it. Do you even know if some are doing it in your community? Do you know all the things that some have to do? Do you even know if this is obligatory on you as an individual or if it's obligatory on people as a whole? People think seeking knowledge is obligatory on just a group of people. Seeking knowledge is obligatory upon every single one. The Prophet ﷺ said, طَلَبَ الْعِلْمِ فَرِيدَةٌ عَلَى كُلِّ مُسْلِمٍ. Seeking knowledge is obligatory upon every single Muslim. Who knew this? Many of us didn't know. The same way Salah is obligatory on every Muslim. The same way being good to your mom is obligatory on every Muslim. The same way giving zakat is obligatory on every Muslim who meets the conditions. And Hajj is obligatory on everyone who has the ability to do so. Seeking knowledge is obligatory on every Muslim. And in case the sisters thought that they're free, the Prophet said, وَمُسْلِمَةٍ, and the Muslim woman as well. Both of them had to be mentioned here. It's for everyone. They all must know these things. Mu'amalat, fiqh, in there we study dealings, transactions, contracts. When is it haram to buy? When is it halal to buy? What can you buy? What can you not buy? Look at all the different transactions that take place in the world. People get involved in Forex. And they're already in it. And they're making money. Now their livelihood is based on it. Now they come and they what? Is it halal though? You were supposed to find out if it was halal before you did it. Do you not know that it's haram to engage in a transaction if you don't have knowledge of whether it's permissible, if you don't have knowledge about what makes a transaction correct? Did you know Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu used to stop people from coming to trade in the marketplace because he said they will definitely fall into riba. They will. People ask about university loan. You have to study this stuff then. You should know it. Insurance, phone contracts. He said, look, every day there is something that you are involved in. A transaction. You live in a house. Is your house halal? Is it haram? Are you even allowed to live in this area? Is a Muslim allowed to live in this community? Are we even allowed to? If so, what is in my house? Is there haram in my house? I have a TV. Is it permissible? There's games that I give to my children, are they permissible? Games where the child is doing shirk. They have games where they play as a god. Am I allowed to do this? What about the music? I've got it, he's addicted, now what do I do? You should have learned this stuff before. You should have learned this stuff before. Marriage, we get married, then we get divorced. Marriage could have been saved if you knew. He's divorced, he doesn't know. He divorced his wife. How many people today, I'm not going to mention this right now because it's going to create a controversy. But you know when you mention these things, we'll talk about it properly when we come to the chapter of divorce. But sometimes people divorce their wife, they don't realize they've divorced her. He's with her for 10 years. You're telling me she's not my wife? Okay, that's not for me to say. Go to a judge, go to a mufti. But you should have known. There are things that you shouldn't say because it can leave and mean that you're divorced now. There are a man who married off his daughter. He doesn't realize I've married her off. She's married. He didn't realize he was joking. He thought he was joking with another man. He said, she's your daughter, she's yours. He was the wali, 2 witnesses were present, he's married her off. As a joke, but that's his wife. And what? Then he marries her off to another man, 2 years later she's doing zina. Well, we have to learn these things, brothers. A child reaches the age of 7. The child has to pray. When he reaches the age of 10, the Prophet said, command, make sure your child prays. Pay attention. The child doesn't have to pray because the child may not have hit puberty at the age of 10. So the child's not sitting if he doesn't pray. But if the parent doesn't make sure the child prays his 5 daily prayers from the age of 10, that mother and that father is a sinner. They are sinning. They are sinning. They are sinning. Does that make sense? So these are things that we have to learn. Fiqh is very important. Tarbiyatul awlad, everything. Remember the Prophet ﷺ said, لا يدخل الجنة لحم نبت من السحت وكل لحم نبت من السحت كانت النار أولى به. Every flesh that was nurtured on things that were haram, unlawful, haram money, haram food, the hellfire has rights on that flesh. You burn that flesh. It has rights. Some of our children sell drugs. Why didn't we teach them these things? Why didn't we teach them the seriousness of this? Because we didn't know it ourselves. It's never too late. Isn't it? Inshallah. It's never too late. To show you also the importance of studying and fiqh is that the scholars mentioned it's not permissible to live in a land where there is not a mufti present, where there is not a person who has knowledge of fiqh that can give fatwa present. There has to be someone in every community that can teach you this stuff, that you can go to for your needs. Allah Azza wa Jalla said, وَمَا كَانَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ لِيَنْفِرُوا كَافَةً. It is not for the believers that they should all go out to do jihad. Is jihad something virtuous? We know how virtuous jihad is in our deen. We know how virtuous jihad is in our deen. But Allah said it's not befitting for all the Muslims to go out and do jihad. Rather, there should be a group of Muslims that should remain. Why? لِيَتَفَقَّهُ فِي الدِّينِ. So they can understand the deen, so they can study the deen, so they can seek knowledge. And when the people come back, وَلِيُنذِرُوا قَوْمَهُمْ إِذَا رَجَعُوا إِلَيْهِمْ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَحْذَرُونَ. So they can teach the people when they come back from jihad. So look at this. By the way, there are only 2 things that Allah Azza wa Jal mentioned in the Quran, specifically as actions that He lifts people up because of. Jihad and knowledge. All day, every day, the guy's talking about jihad, 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 jihad. Akhi barakallahu feek. We're not in a state of jihad right now. So why don't you come and seek knowledge in this, so you can have that same status? Oh, no. Knowledge is for, I'm a real man. Akhi, go away, akhi. You're real on Call of Duty. The point is that, really, if so, then come seek knowledge. Because in fact, seeking knowledge is a greater virtue than jihad. Does that make sense? So the point is that the ayah shows that in the community there should always be a group of people that are what? Seeking knowledge. So they can teach the people. And if you don't have a person like this in your land, or you are not in a land where there is a person close by that you can reach, and you don't have a means to reach the person of knowledge who can teach you this fiqh, it's haram for you to stay there. It's haram for you to stay there. People say, there's the excuse of ignorance. People think, I'll be excused, I didn't know. Allah forgives if you didn't know. It's not unrestricted like that. If ignorance was an excuse, and everyone could be excused for not knowing, then ignorance would be more virtuous than knowledge. Because by a person remaining jahil, he can escape all of the restrictions of the sharia. Rather, the objective is not to remain ignorant. If you're trying to seek knowledge and you're sincere in your effort, and qadar Allah ma shafa'ad, you didn't know you made a mistake, Allah will forgive you, inshallah ta'ala. But there's a masjid right next door to you, or in your community, or it's a train ride away. You travel longer than that to get to where? You travel longer than to get to the masjid than you do to get to work or to get to uni. And what? You didn't go. And they were teaching these things. Then it's up to you then. Then it's on you. Does that make sense? Imam Sufyan al-Thawri, rahmahullah ta'ala, he went to a people and he stayed with them for a month. He went to a group, he went to a land and he stayed with the people for a month. And he said, and after a month he left. And he said, هَؤُلَاءِ قَوْمٌ سُوءٌ. هَؤُلَاءِ قَوْمٌ سُوءٌ. These are a people that are evil. قَوْمٌ سُوءٌ. They are evil people. And then he was asked, why? فَسُئِلَ عَنْ ذَلِكَ. Why are they evil? فَقَالَ أَقَمْتُ فِيهِمْ شَهْرًا. He said, I lived with them for a month. مَا سَأَلَنِي أَحَدٌ مِّنْهُمْ عَنْ مَسْأَلَةٍ. Not even one of them came to ask me a question about the deen. He was a scholar, he's known. Sufyan al-Thawri is famous, known. He said, I went for a month and not one person came to ask. It showed the people didn't want to learn. They didn't want to know about the deen. There's a scholar that comes. People don't turn up when the scholars they come. Okay, in time, whilst the scholars are not there are people that are teaching. That are what? Like tayammum for wudu. They are there just until the scholars come, they're there to teach in the masjid. You don't come. This is what the Salaf would say, this is evil. People say, I follow the Salaf, I follow Sufyan al-Thawri. He doesn't come and ask questions. He doesn't come and ask questions, he don't come and seek the deen. It's problematic, does that make sense? So you must know these things, my brothers and my sisters. You must know these things.